very much for that amazing introduction. I don't think my microphone is working, but you know what? We're going to wing it. I look like I'm talking through the mic and you can hear me, and I'll look good on the photos. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Buki knows this, that each time we are gathered as women, I'm always so grateful to be in a room full of women. But I always want to acknowledge the men that are in the room. And the reason why thank you. The reason why I acknowledge the men is because the reality is that for us to advance in the initiatives that we want to advance in, we need allies, we need supporters, we need cheerleaders. So the three gentlemen that are in the room, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. It's very rare that gentlemen take a back seat and allow women to do their thing. So we absolutely appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. So my name is Stella Harris. I am a technology and data governance professional. I work for a financial institution, and I am incredibly proud to introduce my colleague Jaisal. Now, just a little bit of history about Jaisal. Jaisal and I are actually very good friends. We work together in a financial institution, and one of the things we agreed tonight is we were going to have a candid and honest conversation, because we don't always agree, right, when it comes to technology issues. Now, Jaisal is a data and AI architect. In our world, she's a very important person, highly technical and highly respected. And part of our conversation today is going to be around emerging technologies and AI, which we are all extremely excited about. And I recently spoke about the dangers of AI, and part of the speech I was talking about was, this technology, the speed at which it's developing is going so fast. But we thought about the ethical and considerable and safety elements. Are those things going hand in hand? So that's part of the conversation we're going to have. But to start off this evening, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Jaisal, because Jaisal, I know you are very, very enthusiastic about emerging technologies. There's so many test cases in the banking professional, in business, and in our day-to-day life. In your opinion then, if we can start by maybe focusing on the positive elements of AI and emerging tech, and maybe you can give examples of use cases where we see the positive benefits. Over to you, Jaisal.
Oh, thank you, Stella, for that introduction. And definitely we are friends. And I'm really thankful to the male allies here, one of them being one of my ex-colleagues itself.
Okay,
and
nice.
I think I need to pretend as well the mic is on.
Okay.
Your mic is working.
Yeah. So I think this is a very important conversation, because we are not only highlighting what are the advantages that the whole new emerging tech brings to the space, but also what are the issues or the risks around it that can affect people in real life.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite important. But starting with the positive, because we never go into dystopia, we should start that it is utopia. And the technology is here, it's changing so fast each day. I think the positive parts of this technology is it's solving the big data problem. The big data problem was when you would have so much data, but you wouldn't be able to find the patterns from it and do things around it, or do things automated, which would be very quickly looking at large data sets. So I think that's the key point that it is solving and bringing to the table, and it is helping the employees to increase their productivity, and also the employers to look at certain elements. For example, if you wanted to do your auditing, you needed to do accounting, you needed to look at biasness, which is happening in your transcripts for the meetings that are taking place across your own organization. You could do with all of these tools. Research has become much more easier, finding citations, finding the deep links to all the information that exists. It's long gone that you look at Google now. You would be looking at the tools, but it would also change based on your organization and the things that you do. You would look at, not always GPT will be your solution. You will have to look at other tools as well, extending into Perplexity or Claude, or depending whether you're doing coding or you're doing research, or you have to do something with media, social media, etc. So you have to decide based on your expertise which tool you need to use. Of course, free tools are readily available, and if you are not aware of the tools, then ask the GPT which tools are available. This is the way to use the tools. It is very important to learn prompting, and there are techniques to prompt. That will give you the outcomes that you are looking at. And accuracy, context, meaningfulness, this is what we all look at for in AI. Sometimes you will really notice the context is not understood, the outcome is not accurate, and that is where you understand how to tweak the technology and build bespoke solutions. I think that's the key to embrace this technology.
Well, thank you very much for that detailed explanation, Jaisal. I know you're very passionate about technologies, but I just wanted to have a real conversation. And looking around the room, this is a room for female techpreneurs. Part of the challenges that female techpreneurs encounter is having funding or meeting with the bank to have decisions made about what funding is available. And I can't see Buki in the room at the moment, but I just wanted to just put it out there to say, you know, back in the day, you could walk into the bank, have an appointment with the bank manager, look into his eyes, explain your business plan, explain how you're going to meet him, shake his hand, and that business manager would make a decision about your funding. We seem to have taken the humanity out of decision making, and we're now leaving that to algorithms to decide whether or not your funding is going to be approved. Now, I don't have a problem with technologies that introduce efficiencies into our day-to-day life, but I do have a problem with technologies that take away the humanity. When you shake your bank manager's hand and he gives you the funding for your project, that is transactional on a human level. AI is stripping that away, Jay. So what would you say the merits or dismerits of these technologies are?
I think people are not thinking of human-centered approach or augmented intelligence. What we need to see that AI is here to assist you, to give you guidance, be an advocate, but not to replace humans. And I think most of the industries are somewhere forgetting that. We all know what Klarna did. They got rid of all the employees and put an AI into place. It didn't work. They brought the humans back. So we know that this has happened. So I think whenever we design solutions, when we bring up new startups, we need to think deeply on the human-centered approach. That we need to embrace technology, but where the human in the loop will stand for taking the decisions. For example, if you make a funding request, maybe the screening is automated, but at one point it decides to send an interrupt to a human, whether to approve it or not, and you need a bank manager appointment or not. So you don't need to make it completely automated. You need that human in the loop element.
So what you're saying is that as we embrace these technologies, we mustn't allow them to become fully autonomous. There should always be a human element ingrained.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, while we are still on that note, I think my next question or my next line of inquiry is to do with business. Oh, thank you very much. My next line of inquiry. The mic is not loving me, Buki. I don't know why.
It's not you, it's the mic.
It's not me, it's the mic, ladies and gentlemen. So my next line of inquiry is around how businesses protect themselves. And Jaisal, you're aware that within our own organization, we ran a campaign where we had previously adopted technologies for your banking applications that recognized your voice. My voice is my password, and the applications and software would authenticate you because your voices are biometric, much like your iris, much like your fingerprint. However, it has been proven that because of the advancement of AI technologies, The technologies are now able to mimic your voice and pass that authentication. So what do you say, Jaisal, in terms of the safeguards we need to put in emerging technologies? How do we ensure the security of the business owners that are in this room that are depending on these technologies to safeguard their bank accounts and their businesses?
Absolutely. I think this is one of the key questions under AI and deception around AI. The first and important key areas everybody needs to look at.
You can borrow mine, Jason. We can share.
Oh wow, that sounds good. I think the key areas that everybody needs to look at would be the types of phishing that are taking place, deepfakes. Deepfakes is a big area which is now emerging. That includes everything that you're talking about. It's not just image generation, it's audio, video, and also cloning your voice, cloning your video as well. That has been increasing quite a lot with this technology. And phishing has its own types. It could be with voice, SMS, audio, and I think people are getting trapped into it. So there are certain rules and checks that you can put in place to protect yourself. Of course, for example, if your image is online for a public forum, you need to see whether you can add a watermark to it. You need to see on and off on Google if somebody else uses your name with a different image. That had happened to me actually. So I think those are the kind of checks you do. You can look at your settings for GPT, etc., whether they're using your data to train the models. You can stop that. And voice authentication and calling the bank. I think you need to see whether you're calling a legit number. If you are getting a call from the bank, HMRC, or anybody who pretends as a persona of that organization, you're not supposed to give out any details that could be AI related. For example, because this is a candid conversation, my father-in-law passed away and a couple of years ago, and it used our contacts and created a profile in Facebook, sending out requests to every family member. So you could see the impact that this technology could have. It had a quite personal impact on my husband's family, and it was not all right. So we could see that there are dangers to this technology, but how can we due diligently use it? When it comes to organizations, of course, which are larger firms, they're already looking at having governance in place, risk assessment models. Already they have extensive explainability checks that they're putting into place. If you look at what we are implementing in the banking sector right now, nothing goes live with a lot of security checks and data protection checks as well. But for smaller organizations, I think this is a challenge because they may not be able to license enterprise models where data doesn't go in or out. Once you've bought the model, it's yours. You know, and you could also buy the domain related models that are available. But for smaller organizations where you're using free tools, there is a danger that your data goes out, it uses it for training, and then cloning and deepfakes could be a result of this.
Can I just grab the mic right there? Ladies and gentlemen, just to underscore what Jason has said, if anything is free, you are the product.
Yes.
Anytime you use a free tool, there is a transaction somewhere and you are the transaction. Sorry, I just had to underpin that. Thank you very much, Jaisal. Buki, I know this fireside chat is about female techpreneurs, but because you know me, there are elements that I'm very passionate about, which I hope you don't mind me using this platform to spotlight. I am very passionate about highlighting violence against women, and I just want to run some facts to you. 1 in 4 women will suffer from domestic violence in their lifetime. And if we look at the state of our lives today, technology-enabled and AI-facilitated violence against women is on the increase. Stalking tools are free and easier to implement. Decisions that impact women are automated without check. The Guardian newspaper about 3 months ago produced an article which showed that the Home Office was using an AI tool to make immigration decisions which were disproportionately impacting ethnic minority women. So in as much as Jaisal, and because my dear friend here is a deeply, deeply technical person, I understand your passion, but for me, it's so important for us to keep calling out the dangers of these technologies. Because I always think, you know, the technology is going at the speed of Usain Bolt. Usain was at some point the fastest man on earth. You know how he trained, you know his diet. But humanity is trying to jog alongside Usain in morning slippers. You can't compete. The speed of those two needs to be side by side, otherwise humanity will get lost in the speed of transformation. Okay, enough of the deep and heavy stuff. Let's go back to the positivity. Jaisal, in your opinion and in closing, before we go, what are your favorite use cases for AI and emerging technologies? And any words of encouragement you would say to the entrepreneurs that are in the room? We also have young people. Shout out to my son Carlos in the room. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Carlos. And what can we say to the entrepreneurs in the room? What technologies would you encourage? And one of the things you said in opening, Jaisal, you are right. This technology is not going anywhere. We can shout, it's here. If you're not on board, you're going to get left behind. So what words of encouragement and closing would you like to give the entrepreneurs in the room?
I think the biggest risks that I see with this technology, other than regulations, is the digital divide itself. Yeah, as you mentioned, not everybody, you're going to be left behind. But think of countries that don't have the internet, do not have any access to tools or technologies. And this is one area that I've been working with UN for quite a while on digital literacy, digital divide. I think this goes far beyond AI. And once that digital divide is created, those countries are going to be left behind quite a lot. Having said that, I would say that people in the room, each day when new tools come in, do not get lost into the information overload. Look what your business needs, what are your business use cases, and then the tools that would be appropriate for that. Do not fall for even trainings. People claim, I'll teach you everything in this course, just give 300 pounds. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to look at what you really want to create. Are you in education? Are you in research? Are you in banking? And what tools work for you? Look at that. It changes use case by use case. That's the reason even experts in AI need to look at tools each day. I think we have sleepless nights because we cannot keep up with so much tech. It's an information overload for us as well, keeping up with the news. But as a sidetrack, I think what can be done is, why don't we add alerts and use these agentic tools that they have brought in to create news alerts, to tell you what's the latest that is happening in these tools and which you can use in your industry. All that can be set up within these tools, and I think that's the way to embrace this technology. Okay. And the future and the stakeholders who are the key in this, first is the government and the regulating bodies, because there's going to be a lot of governance that is going to be required. The pace at which the innovation is taking place in this versus the regulations that are coming in, they're really not at the same pace. That's why people who are diverse and the forums which are encouraging people all over the world from different communities to give their inputs for the data, for building the regulations and policies and guardrails around this technology is going to be key. And that is why, because women belong to interdisciplinary, all the fields are interdisciplinary. Yeah. It's important that we get the inputs from them.
You mentioned something really interesting about who is responsible. And that's something that I just want to touch on before we close and move on to our next session. Many of you here are familiar with the platform Twitter. I think it's called